Celebrating and Taking Charge of ADHD is an innovative group coaching program incorporating mindfulness as an essential tool throughout. This podcast addresses a number of topics that we face on a day-to-day basis and celebrates the precious human life we have all been given. However, you may be aware of some of the symptoms associated with ADHD that hold us back, so let's take charge of it together. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Celebrating ADHD podcast with your hosts Jono Godley and Sue Hart. Today we're very fortunate to have Patricia Morgan on as a guest. Patricia is an author, speaker and therapist from Canada and specialises in helping to teach everyday individuals effective and long-lasting self-improvement strategies. Patricia's research and insights on resiliency have benefited many individuals and organisations, most notably Shell Canada, the City of Calgary, MasterCard, and even federal governments. She is often referred to as an innovative and charismatic entrepreneur, and her ability to provide bite-sized knowledge nuggets for resilience has helped many people emerge stronger after facing unthinkable challenges. She is also a recipient of Global TV's Woman of Vision Award and the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers Spirit of Caps Award for her contribution to the Canadian speaking industry. Patricia has been described as a therapeutic counsellor, author, mother to 3, grandmother to 5, and happily married most days. With an MA in clinical psychology, she has authored several books on resilience, stress management, and women's issues, including Love Her As She Is, Lessons from a Daughter Stolen by Addictions, From Woe to Wow, How Resilient Women Succeed at Work, and the Canadian bestseller, Frantic Free, 167 Ways to Calm Down and Lighten Up. For more information on Patricia and how to get in touch with her directly, head over to www.solutionsforresilience.com to find out more. Patricia, welcome to the Celebrating ADHD podcast. It's great to have you here, and we've got just quite a few questions to ask you today about what it is that you do. So let's dive right in. Okay, so in a few words, would you be able to describe exactly what it is that you do to our listeners today?
My business is called Solutions for Resilience, and I am a therapist, a psychotherapist here in Canada. That's what I do a good portion of the time, and the other time is I do presentations right now during COVID, mostly online, on the subject of resilience. And to give you a definition of resilience, it is the ability to stay steady or to bounce back when faced with challenge, such as significant change. You can think of COVID again, loss, the poor behavior of other people, and sometimes the poor behavior of ourselves. And I know that sometimes I have some loved ones with disabilities. Sometimes a disability increases that sometimes poor behavior or misstep of ourselves.
That's a very good answer right there. So thank you very much for that. I'll hand over to Sue now for the next question.
Great. Thanks, Jono. So as part of the Celebrating ADHD course, Patricia, on Module 5, we cover a phenomena called the ADHD effect on relationships. Mm-hmm. And basically, that kind of plays out with a parent and child dynamic. And it's a repeating pattern. And what I've experienced with my own relationship is that the drama triangle is one of the main games that's played within that. So I guess really to set the scene, if we could just give our listeners an introduction to transactional analysis and then how the drama triangle fits within that.
Right. So I'll do just a quick little history. So the psychiatrist Eric Berne actually studied Freud's work and took the id, the super ego, and the ego and turned it into parent, adult, and child. The parent state at the state of being. When we're in the parent state, we're actually reproducing either a critical, controlling, kind of maybe mean-spirited, not necessarily mean-spirited, but maybe parent, and a nurturing, caring, loving parent in our head. The adult ego state was where information is transferred from one person to the other, or information in from another source. And there's no history of like parent ego states or caregiver ego states in the head. And the child state, which is the third, Freud called it the id, Eric Berne called it the child, is either the adapted child, the child that adapted to its environment, or the free natural child. Cartman studied with Eric Berne. That's why it's in the umbrella of transactional analysis. And Cartman noticed whenever conflict comes up, there are these three roles that people tend to step into. The first and most dominant role is victim. And the other two roles actually are afraid of being a victim. They're very much aligned and very easily fall into victim. In many ways, we've got a culture that often focuses on victim. The victim feels helpless, hopeless, help me, fix me. The rest of the world needs to come and rescue me. It's the place of asking to be rescued. The persecutor, sometimes called the blamer, certainly the blamer or the attacker, is somebody who steps into this triangle and blames problems on the victim, or the conflict on victim, is finger pointing, the real blame pointer. The rescuer flies in like an angel, wanting to perceive oneself, often inappropriately, as having the power to fix somebody else. I'll just fix you. And we can go round and round this drama triangle, these three roles, very, very easily, because the victim can often turn into persecuting the rescuer by saying, "You don't do that. You did that badly. Like, you really messed up my life by coming in there and doing that." So once we step into the drama triangle, it's often difficult to get out. And I see a lot of people telling the other person that they're interacting with that you're trying to rescue me, or you're blaming me, or you're playing victim, rather than taking responsibility and saying, "Oops, I caught myself blaming you." And that's stepping out. First step is acknowledging that you're playing one of these roles. I find the drama triangle a very useful tool for awareness. And then it takes discipline to catch oneself in it, and then being a little humble enough to say, "Oops, I'm doing this. I'm trying to rescue you. I'm trying to attack you or blame you, or I'm playing victim, like I'm helpless and don't have any choices."
That's a very strong answer right there. And I think whilst we're on the subject of the drama triangle as well, I guess, self-awareness is such a big part of it. Just being able to step back and, present an awareness of maybe a way you've been acting in a certain situation. I think that really is a strong factor. And I guess the following question I want to ask you, Patricia, today was, what are the kind of contributing factors which may lead to someone being either the attacker or rescuer and victim as well within maybe their lives?
Right. Much of this is unconscious. And if you are raised in a family that have some of these patterns, you may have had caregivers or parents that played these roles as role models for setting up this particular psychological, it's sometimes referred to as a game. It's an unconscious game, and the payoff is pain. You may, in the family, been designated the scapegoat or the black sheep of the family. So you get accustomed to being pointed at and blamed. And so you may end up having ingrained in you this position of victim, or you may, as a child, be saying most of your life, when I grow up, I'm going to be the one that's going to blame other people. And so you can have the reactions. So sometimes you see people very much in the polar position than when they were raised, and sometimes they continue in that position. For myself, I was the oldest in the family. I had 3 younger brothers, and I was programmed in rescuing. There's usually, we have a favorite role that we play. And they used to gang up on and tease me. So my next favorite place to go, and I mean favorite as a tendency, is the victim. And blaming and bullying and attacking is not all that familiar for me. I'll tend to take on, it's all my fault kind of thing, right? So that again puts me in victim. So we tend to have these patterns. I tend to rescue so much that my husband says, you're smothering the children, right? So that any of these roles can have a healthy element to them. So, I mean, we can take the person who attacks or blames and could say, maybe that person's got good strengths in challenging people in their poor behavior. And the rescuer probably makes a good coach or therapist if they know how to put boundaries on. And certainly anybody who sees themselves as a victim can start to learn that they have choices and how capable they are.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much for sort of explaining that and sharing a little bit about your life. I guess in terms of the roles that you mentioned about that you tend to lead towards one, I can speak from my own experience. It's definitely been the victim. Started off at a very young age with my brother and sibling rivalry of he was 2 years older. And I was always putting myself in the victim, and to the point where I thought that there's no way out. It's all my fault. He doesn't love me. What's wrong with me? And it developed some really strong limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough. And it played out actually in every relationship. So after it, subconsciously, exactly what you're saying. So until you become aware of it, you're just not able to step out of it. So I kind of know from my own experience the long-term effects of it, but I wondered if you could say from your experience and clients that you work with, what you see of the long-term effects of continually playing out this drama triangle constantly.
Well, if it's unconscious, it will probably live with you till you exit the planet. Because most people are on automatic pilot with their patterns. And I certainly was a victim, and you definitely were a victim. There is a place to say that person is being victimized. So if you're being picked on or bullied, that is an appropriate word to describe victim, right? And my dad had an anger management issue. So when I was physically attacked, I indeed was a victim. I just want to clarify that there are many situations where it is appropriate to say that somebody was victimized. And children definitely are vulnerable for that, as are seniors when they get older and frail, as is true with people who have severe either mental or physical disabilities. They are what we call a vulnerable population, and they do need some extra protection. However, oftentimes when we were victimized as children, and I mean that to mean verbally abused, emotionally abused, physically, sexually abused, that if we don't deal with those factors, that those events that happened to us where we were severely or sincerely victimized, that can affect us into our adulthood. The neurons in our brains repeat over and over again. For example, I had a father with an anger management issue, and he physically did some abuse to me, but probably the more severe abuse was calling me stupid. He called my mother and me the stupid females. That neuron of the stupid female, he would say it a number of times. And as a child, adults speak, and they speak as if they're God, and you believe it's true. So it's taken me years to redo that neuron. And I'll tell you, anytime I made a mistake, I would blame and attack myself. We can actually do the drama triangle in our own head. It would be like my father in the head saying, oh, you stupid girl, you did it again. I told you were stupid. And I'd be 30, 35, 40 years old. So that's how we take it into our adult years, is we're unconscious of where that's coming. We actually believe that message in our head is true. I did believe you are stupid. And I would attack myself. And I didn't have a rescue in my head. I married a rescuer, my husband, who is quite brilliant and knows he's intelligent. And I would go to him in the victim role when I was feeling stupid to reinforce or rescue me from the attack in my head, the attacker, which in my childhood was a blamer, attacker, my dad. These three roles just show up over and over again. So I've worked at the messages in my head to strengthen them. And yes, affirmations, which many people use, can be very, very helpful. Just think about all the times you have said the negative line to yourself, whether it's I'm stupid or I'm incapable, whatever it is. Have you done the positive as many or more? And have you done processes that help anchor that message? And there's all kinds of ways now in therapy. Therapy has really, really evolved to include body, mind, the somatic mixed with the cognitive to be more effective in this day and age.
That's a brilliant answer right there. And I guess also, I think self-compassion is a big part of it as well. I think, like I talked about the self-awareness side of things, I think practicing compassion with yourself is vital, just so that you can then address these kinds of things and then move forward from there. And this next question links in very well to what we've just talking about. I've heard that some people who have been bullied actually end up becoming the bully. And I wanted to ask about how that whole side of things plays out.
Wow, there's a lovely saying that has evolved in the last while, and it says, hurt people hurt others. I don't think I need to say anything else. Hurting people hurt others.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Yeah, I can relate to that in terms of, going through so much pain and suffering in my early years, may sort of not really trust people, even people within an intimate relationship. And it's through fear and you try to protect yourself from getting hurt again. So it's only really recently that I've learned to sort of open my heart and actually step out of that drama triangle. Right. I'm going to ask you, in terms of people can relate to being in that triangle, what would you suggest to them to be able to step out of it?
Well, very practical, simple idea is, as we can do is print off. And there's many charts on the internet, and there's one that I have on my website, which you can give your listeners the connection, the link to, is a basic drawing of a triangle that they can put in front of them. I have my clients, my therapy clients often put it in somewhere where they can see it when they're on the phone. The phone's a very, very good place to practice because nobody knows you're looking at a chart. So, somebody who tends to trigger you and sort of welcomes you, pushes you into the drama triangle. If you know you're going to have a conversation with them, you can put the chart in front of you, be on the phone, and ask yourself, prepare yourself. Okay, I'm really going to tackle this. I'm really going to notice when I'm being invited to rescue, be the victim, or to blame or attack. And I'm going to step out and I'm going to say something very different. There's three ways we can change our patterns. And this is just one pattern that, the field of psychology is offering us, the drama triangle. I find it a very powerful tool to use. But there's only really three ways when you boil it all down to change our patterns. The first is to notice what we're feeling and to attend to it. That will take us out. The second is to notice what we're thinking and to check and ask, is this true? Does this serve me? Does this serve the people I love? Is this true? Does this serve me? Does it serve the people I love? And the third way to change is to catch our behavior, what we're saying or what we're doing. And so you can use this chart to quickly notice what you're thinking and or what you're saying out loud, and seeing if, where is that? I've been playing this round and round conflict conversation with this person for, it could be years, it could be weeks, but I can change the conversation by stepping out. And it's interesting. You have in England the Agatha Christie play that's been running for years. Is it called The Mousetrap?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
How many years has that been running?
About 50 years or something like that. Yeah.
50 years. Now I want you to imagine 50 years those actors have been saying the same lines. And somebody walks on the stage and says a line that has never been said on that play ever before. What happens to the whole play? It stops.
Yeah.
It stops. People are flummoxed. So if you've been doing the drama triangle for a long time, you have the power to stop that play, that dance, by changing and don't expect anybody to appreciate it. If you've been the victim in the family all these years, they'll probably welcome it if you stop playing the attacker, the blamer. They'll think you've been born again or something. What happened? What happened to Sue? She must have born again. She's being gentle and saying,
Are you feeling all right, Sue? What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, right? They might be disappointed if you quit rescuing, right? And if you play victim, they go, whoa, what happened? Okay, so did she take some kind of drug? But what happens is the pattern has been broken, and it's quite empowering and exciting. And hopefully you're doing it. See, the phone's such a safe place, and but don't expect to go into a significant family gathering and change your role completely. And this, I'm talking about all kinds of roles. There's archetypes that these fit in. The knight and the queen. There's the queen who blames others for misdoing. And then there's the queen who rescues and gives you pardons. And then there's the queen very seldom, however, goes into victim. So there's archetypes we play out. There's all kinds of roles that we play out. We play out the little me and the big me. And definitely when we're in conflict, we're playing out either attacking, blaming, rescuing, I'll fix you, or poor me. I don't have any choices. This is a hopeless situation, and I'm not capable of looking after myself. Poor me.
Yeah, no, I definitely relate to that. And I think one of the things that I've noticed with ADHD is what we do is we tend to mask things, and we pretend to be someone that we're not. So sometimes we can play the role of the rescuer, that we know best, we know everything, and really we don't. And we don't want to lose face. So we kind of sometimes get on the defensive as well. Is a defense mechanism, which is the prosecutor, where you blame others. You don't want to accept responsibility for the truth, really. So yeah. I was thinking, if you're trying to keep up that role within your family or within work colleagues or something like that, I mean, how would you step out of it?
Well, that you've identified that sometimes the nervous system, when you say defending, that's an indicator that the nervous system has been activated. And actually, there's another way to think about the drama triangle, and that is that the nervous system has been activated. So if you want to back up a little bit and not even step into the drama triangle, you probably want to learn a little bit about the nervous system and learn when your amygdala gets fired, in that you're in a state of not feeling safe. The victim, the rescuer, and the attacker, all three are going into those clusters of behaviors that represent rescuer, attacker, or victim in an attempt to protect themselves. It's as if they live in a dangerous world, and there are dangers in our world, but oftentimes when we're home with our partner, our sweetheart, and we bounce into this, or with our children, we are actually literally safe. So that's another way to think about it. The other one is, as I said before, practice noticing when you step into any of these roles, and get in the habit of saying, okay, what's my choice? By the way, anytime that you find yourself, the amygdala starting to fire, and there's this sense that you're not safe, or you're starting to rescue somebody out of a pattern, or attacking, or wanting to give up into the victim, taking a very deep breath in. And Dr. Stephen Porges, who has recently come out educating us about the polyvagal nerve to calm ourselves so that we can make rational, because we're in the drama triangle, we're not making rational choices, is to breathe in 4, hold 5, and breathe out to the count of 7. Longer breaths out, calm us down. As I said before, these neurons get stronger and stronger the more we play a particular role with a particular belief system that supports that I'm a victim, or I'm one of the ways of defending is to rescue, to make everything all right so everybody's safe, or to attack and free myself, defend myself from it's got anything to do with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that was helpful. Yeah, I find breathing the number one place to go to change any automatic pattern.
Yeah, the power of the breath is amazing. It really does work to calm ourselves down, and then start to step out and take an action. And like you mentioned, is that knowing that you then have a choice of how to respond afterwards.
Right. If you're lucky enough to have a loving, supportive partner who tends not to go into the drama triangle with you, then that person, you can make an agreement to do a signal, just like something like, into rescue, or into, yeah, like that. If you have somebody like that, I've noticed with some clients that they get really irritated when their partner doesn't do the pattern with them, and they're trying to change the pattern. They go, well, didn't say anything, just stood there, didn't do anything. And I say, so didn't step into the drama triangle with you, and that really frustrated you. So what an opportunity to take a breath and take a look at yourself. So this patterning is so habituated that we can get frustrated that somebody won't get in and play the conflict drama game. Some people are so comfortable, become so comfortable in being in the sympathetic nervous system, having the amygdala fired, and this agitation. It becomes their norm to be in this fight, anxious, defending state. And to calm down doesn't feel safe to them. It's like hypervigilance all the time. And that's a real big push to go into the drama triangle.
Yeah. And the effects of that, I can completely relate to what you're saying. The long-term effects is that the body keeps the score.
Yes, very good.
It just drains you. Yeah.
Yes, Van der Kolk's book. Well, yes, and the body does keep the score. If you're in the drama triangle most of your life, your body's going to wear down. I'm 74, and people amazed at how healthy and vibrant I am. I'm 75 in December. And I believe that getting control of my nervous system and being conscious of how much time I was spending in a victim and trying to rescue everybody so that my life would be safe was exhausting. It was and I was sick a lot. Oh my goodness. I used to get cardiac arrhythmia attacks. I used to have rashes. I had stomach aches. What else do I have? A form of, irritated bowel syndrome attacks.
Wow.
I was sick.
Anything you didn't have.
Yes. And I started to do personal awareness. I started to go and look after me and decide this. I am in charge of me. I have choices. My main responsibility is to be the best person I can be on this planet. And instead of, tending to blame anybody else, I will try. I took assertiveness classes, if I had that tendency. Rescuing again, the assertiveness classes were fairly helpful. And also with victim. So assertiveness classes are useful to develop new I'll honor my rights and I'll honor your rights. And so that's a good classic place to begin as well. And also reminding myself that I'm safe. So all of the somatic pieces, the breathing, even taking a yoga class can help you just to calm down so that you can see your life from a calm perspective. So when the prefrontal cortex is fully engaged, we can look at this diagram in a more logical way. Sometimes I ask people, imagine you're sitting on the moon and you're looking at your life as if it was on the stage, like the mousetrap. And Nelson Mandela had spent all those years in prison doing a lot of mental work. So sometimes pondering and getting curious about our life. The unexamined life is a life not worth living. I forget what wonderful philosopher said that line, but introspection is not valued as much as I think it should be. So introspection can change a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
then putting it into action.
Yeah. And from a mindfulness perspective, it's really putting yourself into the role of the observer.
That's right.
Watching what's going on the stage, being able to take that. I've got another question, and then we'll see if Jono has got any more. But I know you've got to go, so it's going to be a really quick one. In terms of, and firstly, before we go, I'd like to say you are amazing. At 75, you're radiant, and I can definitely see that, in terms of the work that you've done and the inner work has had an effect on your health, and obviously relationships around you are healthier. So yeah, amazing. You're amazing. So the question is really on a bigger scale, because from the research that I've done into Eric Byrne, that some of these games are played on a world stage and a bigger scale. And the question is that really on an organizational level, because when I looked to setting up Celebrating ADHD, I looked at the possibility of having it as a charity. And I quickly decided not to, because it kind of had a victim mindset attached to it, and it was going against everything what Celebrating ADHD is about in terms of developing a growth mindset and taking responsibility to do the work ourselves. So my quick question is, how do you see charities in terms of the drama triangle on a bigger scale?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I've worked for a lot of what we call here nonprofit organizations. And the question is, does that organization have a poor you, will fix you perspective, or does it have a perspective of empowering? So there's a difference between going in and rescuing. There were years ago, there were charities that went in and would do a whole lot for a village and then leave, and then they didn't educate the villagers on how to keep up the water pump or whatever. Nowadays, they will go in and teach. They will more teach, educate how to find the wells, dig the wells, build the wells, give them the equipment. So are you giving them the equipment? There's that old saying, if I give a person a fish, they can be fed for the day, but if I teach them to fish, then they can make themselves a living. So I think it depends on the philosophy of the nonprofit and how they are operating. And of course, the world right now is in great crisis. And should we have left Afghanistan? I have such compassion for the girls and women there. And they were, from what I could understand, being empowered to be educated so that eventually they could have some leadership. So I think it's not black and white, but whoever's going to put something in place that's called charity. Charity is a very different word than nonprofit organization. Charity feels like I'm the rescuer. I think it's the word, but then we're getting into semantics. So I think it depends on the philosophy and then the outcome. I hope that's helpful.
Very good answer. Yeah,
definitely. No, really, really good one there. I think I've got one more question for you, Patricia. I just wanted to also talk about kind of the mindfulness. I think it is such a big part of it, and just being able to, observe yourself and take those deep breaths and just be able to look internally with a lot of self-compassion as well. I think it's
yes,
definitely an important thing to do.
I'd just like to mention, John, on the word of self-compassion, one very effective way is how do you do self-compassion? I find it helpful to hold your arms like you're holding a baby and start to rock and imagine that baby is a part of you and rock. And actually hum to yourself or mutter to yourself. You need to give yourself what you didn't get in moments that longing comes up.
Of course. Kind of making up for what you didn't have maybe at an earlier stage.
That's right.
Makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, the final question that I've got for you is where can we find more out about you and what it is that you do? And I understand also that you've recently released a book. And would you be able to share some information very quickly about it before we wrap up?
Well, during COVID, I wrote several ebooks. I wrote 3 ebooks. So if anybody's interested, 3 ebooks during COVID, and I just give them away. You'll have to email me, Patricia at Solutions for Resilience. That's Patricia at solutionsforresilience.com. And my website, same, solutionsforresilience.com. On my website for free is an ebook called Stress Solutions. It's called Stress Solutions. The other ebooks that have been written during COVID are Understanding Trauma, What to Do for You and Others. Second is Understanding Loneliness, What to Do for You and Others. And the third is 4 Forms of Support, How to Create Emotionally Safe Spaces for Moments of Distress or Trauma. There's other ebooks also available for 99 cents. There's 6 of them on my website, plus other books. I tend to love to write. So there's Love Her As She Is, Lessons from a Daughter Stolen by Addictions, From Woe to Wow, How Resilient Women Succeed at Work. My poorest seller, but it's brilliant book, is called Gag Your Nagging. How to Effectively Communicate. And then there's She Said, a tapestry of women's quotes. And then I have some micro books. One's called Frantic Free, 167 Ways to Calm Down and Lighten Up. And there's others. I gave up being stupid and started writing books.
Oh, I'm so pleased you did, because you are far from it. And it's just wonderful to hear the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm really real privileged to have you on the show today.
My pleasure. Last words, be the change you want to see.
Kapow. There we go. I think that's a perfect time to wrap things up. So Patricia, thank you so much for coming on and letting us interview today on the Celebrating ADHD podcast. Anything else you want to say, Sue, before we bring things to a close?
No, that's it. I mean, thank you to Patricia. I'm very, very grateful to have met you, and thanks for sharing with our listeners your wisdom.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, that's the end of the podcast for this week, but we'll be back very, very soon with another episode. So thanks for listening and see you soon. Thank you for downloading. You've been listening to the Celebrating ADHD podcast, empowering people to reach their full potential. Celebrating ADHD works best combined as a holistic treatment program, so we advise you to consult your health specialist for medical advice. If you are not sure if you have ADHD, please get in touch, as we can recommend a medical expert, as the diagnosis is all part of the journey. One of the best ways to take charge of your ADHD is through connecting with others that have ADHD too. Please follow us on the Celebrating ADHD Facebook page, Instagram and Twitter, or join the members area at www.celebratingadhd.com.